Well, our top focus story this afternoon on headlines today. It's a huge safety lapse by the Delhi Metro authorities this morning. This after doors of one of its coaches remained opened while it moved between two stations on the yellow line as the train made its way from Delhi to Gurgaon between Ghitorni and Arjangarh. The left-hand side door of the Delhi Metro train, remember, remained open. Those are visuals on your screen. The train was coming from Gurgaon, started moving even though the doors did not shut at the Arjangarh station. Now the matter was brought to the notice of the driver, following which the train was stopped at Ghitorni station for about 15 minutes as the officials checked the coach. Now it is believed that the doors did not close due to a technical problem. The DMRC has suspended the train operator. Now here's the statement that was issued by the DMRC over the incident. The statement says, and I quote, "Around 9:40 a.m. today, the left-hand side door of the train moving from Arjangarh to Ghitorni on line 2, Huda City Centre to Jahangirpuri, were found to be open. Prima facie, it is an error by the train operator and he has been suspended with immediate effect. The matter is being investigated," unquote. My colleague Simi Pasha now joins me live from the newsroom for more on this story. Simi, this is a huge security lapse on the part of the DMRC, endangering the lives of lakhs of commuters who throng the Delhi Metro every morning to make their way to work. What is the latest on this issue?
Well, Rishika, this is an important line. Thousands of commuters take this Delhi Metro to Gurgaon early in the morning on their way to work. This is a major security lapse by the DMRC. It's important to note that the Metro moves on elevated corridors at high speed. So these trains moving on elevated corridors with high speed with the doors open actually expose passengers to the risk of accidents. Another thing that needs to be noted is that every time a door opens at a metro station, there's a beep sound that rings across all over the train. Now, when it shuts down, that beep sound comes once again. Now, if there was an alert that was sounded and the operator did not pay attention to it, of course, he is to be blamed for this faux pas, which is why at prima facie, the DMRC has suspended the operator. But there's also a larger technical issue. These trains every night go through a maintenance and security check. There are officers who carry out checks of every doors of every compartment. Before this train left its station at 6 o'clock in the morning, an engineer would have checked all the magnetic doors to ensure that signals are properly being sent to the engine of this metro. Now, if an oversight of this has taken place, only an operator cannot be held responsible. There are also larger security concerns that need to be addressed by the DMRC. Of course, the Delhi Metro Rail Corporation has ordered an inquiry and a final report is awaited now.
Well, Simi, an inquiry has been ordered, and that really are the procedural considerations we're going to have to follow. It also raises several questions given the fact that the DMRC at this point in time is undergoing a massive expansion plan across the national capital. There have been several new routes that have been formed recently. Just a fortnight ago, there was a new route that was inaugurated by Venkaiah Naidu. So doesn't this raise some serious questions over how really is the DMRC, going to manage these expansion plans when the existing routes itself are facing several of these troubles?
Absolutely. The big question is the DMRC ignoring its existing trains and sacrificing it probably as it focuses on its expansion plans. Now, the Delhi Metro project, of course, has been replicated by other cities as well. This is an example. The first time that a metro train ran from one point to the other was in the national capital. This is a model that's been replicated in different cities. In Mumbai, Kolkata is also hoping for something like this. Bangalore, of course, has also now got a functional metro system. Something like this happening on a high-speed train, which has not been brought to life, remember, by DMRC officials, but by a passenger who shot this video and uplinked it online, is a cause of concern. Officials really need to take note of this. If this is a plan that needs to be replicated in different parts of the country, we need to have a 100% foolproof plan for this. And as far as fixing accountability is concerned, suspending the person, the bottom guy, the lowest possible guy on the rung is not just unfair, it also puts a question mark on how seriously the DMRC is addressing this issue. A safety and security check needs to be carried out before the trains start running in the morning. Engineers also need to be held accountable. Not just that, there are the security guards on board every metro while it's moving from point A to B. There are other officials on board. Why is it that they did not raise an alarm, and why is it that passengers passengers had to shoot this video and take it to the driver and show it to him and tell him that there's a door open on an elevated corridor. Why did it have to come to this? This is a big question that the DMRC will have to address in the days to come.
Well, absolutely big and tough questions for the DMRC to answer. Simi, stay on with us. Atir Khan is also joining us live for more on this story. Atir, the train, we believe, was stopped at the Ghitorni station for about 15 minutes as officials checked the coach, and then the train continued to make its way. But it took the entire journey for the train operator to in fact figure out that this door was open. So clearly the security and safety checks and balances that have been set in place by the DMRC completely falling short in this case.
Well, I wish to remind you, at the time of inception of metro, some very stringent tests were carried out as far as rake is concerned, its movement is concerned.
Right.
Initially the speed was limited to 50 kilometers per hour, but then later it has now been increased. So therefore these visuals are startling. You know, the gate of the compartment open, and it must have caused a lot of anxiety among the passengers who were on board this compartment.
Right.
So it took a long while for Metro to figure out how dangerous it was, and thereafter now they have fixed the responsibility. But the question is, this mechanical failure of one compartment, does it? How is it that only one compartment's door did not close, and the rest of the all the other 5 or 6 compartments the doors had closed? So these are the questions they'll have to answer in due course of time. But as of now, they have taken a prompt action, which is welcome, but then a fully fledged inquiry needs to be ordered into this.
Well, absolutely, Atir, and also, apart from the fact that there have to be some basic safety checks and balances that have to be in place, and it also raises, the larger question of whether technically the DMRC has taken all possible checks and balances. They have put in place mechanisms to make sure, that the metro functioning is in fact foolproof. It also raises some very basic questions of how could there not be an alarm system in place when the door of a metro is in fact left ajar for the entire duration of a journey. How can there not be something as basic as an alarm that is fixed in these trains?
Well, that's right. This is a big concern. You see, the fully fledged inquiry into this as to what happened will be, of course, carried out by the DMRC senior officials.
Right.
And they will ascertain as to whether an alarm was raised or by any passenger on board, or they could not do it due to the panic situation. Why is it took so long for the engine driver to figure out that there was a major technical snag?
Absolutely.
So these are all the questions. What was the security personnel doing? There will be different members of the DMRC officials who will look into it, following which we'll get to know what actually happened, what needs to be done. So, really, this has been a very serious and startling incident, which, and I'm sure that DMRC is going to take cognizance of this matter and ensure that it doesn't happen in future.
A serious and startling incident that has left the DMRC completely red-faced, but also it has left the government in a very embarrassing position. And I'd like to bring in Simi at this point in time. Simi, over the next 5 years, if the way the rail budget was presented, the way the budget has been presented by the Modi Sarkar, facts and figures state that 10% of the global market is going to be dominated by Indian railways, 70% of which is going to be dominated by the metro rail network. Now, in the light of all these elaborate expansion plans, bringing the bullet train to India, modernization of our rail network, small instances like these, which are, definitely, it is one such instance. There have been several in the past. Instances like these really raise, several questions of the fact that is India really ready for modernization when basic safety and security mechanisms are not in place?
Absolutely, Rishika, that comment really on the money at a time when the Indian government is hoping to replicate the Chinese bullet trains in India and upgrade our Indian railways. An incident like this really raises a huge question mark about the kind of maintenance that we have about our and how we're looking at our existing infrastructure. Now, this particular incident has highlighted basic loopholes that are existing in our metros. We have normal alarm systems in every train, even if it's a passenger train operating between, for example, Delhi and Aligarh. There'll be a chain that you can pull and raise an alarm, ask the driver to stop the train. Something like this is absent on a metro. Something like this wasn't noticed till now. This is something that the DMRC will have to look at and probably implement a new alarm system as well. Of course, the door should have sent an alarm to the main deck that's available at the driver's station. But if that doesn't happen, passengers should be allowed to raise an alarm by pulling a chain or pressing some kind of button. That's something that's not intrinsically been designed when the metros were being looked at.
Also, Simi, if we could just, go by the way DMRC has dealt with this issue. Now, prima facie, they have suspended the lowest officer in the rung, who is the train operator. And from the face of it, the initial statement that the DMRC has issued, they say that it is a human error. They are investigating the technical matter. But can the buck really stop with one suspension? Because this, remember, has endangered the lives of lakhs of commuters.
Absolutely, the buck really doesn't stop on the operator. The operator responds to signals that are being sent to his station. If his station did not alert him about an open door, then it's a technical fault, and you can't hold up the operator responsible. There's a team of engineers that examines all these trains before they start operations before 6 a.m. in the morning. Some engineers would have looked at this particular train as well before it started its journey from Gurgaon to Delhi. Why is it that this lapse was left and wasn't highlighted and wasn't and the officers and the engineers didn't raise an alarm? This is something that the DMRC will have to really look at. Another point that needs to be noted is that there are security officials who are present on board the metro in every line, on every route. Why is it that the security officers did not raise an alarm? Why was it left to the passengers to raise an alarm about an open door on an elevated corridor?
Well, absolutely. The train operator there caught off guard. The security personnel on board caught napping as the train coming from Gurgaon started moving, even though the doors did not shut at the Arjangarh station. The matter was brought to the notice of the driver, following which he in fact stopped the train at Ghitorni station for about 15 minutes, after which the door was checked. But it is believed that the doors did not close due to some technical problem. Now, the DMRC suspended the train operator, but does the buck really stop there? Atir Khan is still live with us. Atir, this has left the DMRC red-faced, but also raised several questions over these elaborate expansion plans, elaborate modernization plans that the government has set in place when basic safety security measures in the country are lacking. Has there been any response so far? We understand that this incident occurred only a couple of hours ago, but has there been any response from the government? Are they planning to take up this issue? Are they planning to issue a clarification on this?
Well, you see, Rishika, this DMRC is an autonomous body which operates independently.
Right.
And since this incident has been brought to its notice, as you rightly pointed out, there's a wide network it is operating every day. Millions of people are commuting using this rail network. Well, whenever there is an incident like this, the DMRC takes a very serious note of that, and that's what they have done. We've been speaking to our sources in DMRC, and they say that this incident has been taken very, very seriously, and a proper inquiry has been ordered already, in which members of the safety, security, and the mechanical division will be there to look into as to why it happened and how it can be prevented in the future.
Right.
So they will come up with recommendations, and they will try to ensure that this doesn't happen in future. Well, now the operator has been suspended because prima facie they found that it was omission on his part, it was negligence on his part. That's why it caused so much panic among the passengers for that stretch. But certainly they are going to look into it. We are yet to get a reaction from the government on this. Since, fortunately, there was no incident, but then it was on the verge of it. There were so many passengers on board that compartment at that point of time.
Well, absolutely. There was, fortunately, by the grace of God, no untoward incident that took place. No lives were in fact, nobody was injured, no lives were lost in this particular incident. But, having said that, those visuals on your screen of that door being left ajar during that entire run of the journey as the metro makes its way through that elevated corridor has, of course, endangered the lives of several questions and of several passengers, and raised several questions really about the way the DMRC is in fact handling these instances. Like to also bring in Simi at this point in time. Simi, this isn't the first of its kind incident that has taken place, because we've seen in the past as well that there was that metro line that was in fact stranded in that tunnel a couple of weeks ago. Passengers had to be evacuated. We've seen a couple of cases of suicide that have taken place. So there have been these untoward incidents that have been reported in the past, but clearly the DMRC not learning any lessons.
Rishika, you're absolutely right. The focus of the DMRC at this point seems to be on its expansion plan rather than maintaining its existing infrastructure. Lots of incidents have been reported. There have been cases of trains being blocked inside tunnels, power supply being cut and passengers stranded on long journeys. But so far what we've been seeing is accountability being fixed on an officer who's a low-rung officer. Technical heads also need to be held accountable if something like this happens.
Absolutely.
The country has spent a lot of taxpayers' money has been pumped into providing a rail network which is really the pride of the city, and if something like this happens, it really endangers the lives of passengers who travel on board these trains. People are being encouraged to let go of their cars and use public transport, and if passengers are exposed to such risk of accidents, it's obviously not an option that people would like to pick up.
Well, absolutely. Endangering the lives of lakhs of commuters by that door that has in fact been left ajar as the metro made its way on those elevated corridors raises some very serious questions about the safety and security that the DMRC has in fact set in motion. Simi Pasha and Atir Khan, thanks for joining us with those live updates. The DMRC, based on prima facie evidence, has in fact suspended the train operator, but does the buck really stop there? We're going to continue to track this story very closely, because it is you, the viewer, you, the passenger, whose safety is of prime importance.